Hey, what's up, guys? Can you hear the audio? Awesome. What's up, Callum? Good to see you back, bud. How's it going, Mr. Samsuel? Yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm set up in my friend's room right now. Be better once I'm lockdown ends in 2 days. What country are you in, Mr. Oh, you're in the UK? Yeah, I'm in Norway right now, so I'm kind of locked in quarantine for another 6 days. And then back in Sweden, everything's pretty much open, so it's been a lot different being in Sweden during all this for sure. Um, hey John, your guard retention stuff on YouTube and Grappler Guide has improved my game. I was wondering, can you discuss how to retain against more speed-based passing? You can come in, bud. It's fine. No problem. What's up? Oh yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I think everything's cool. All right, thanks, bud. Yeah, feel free to come in if you need. It's no big deal. Um, okay, so retain against more speed-based passing, i.e. double ankle throw by style passes. Um, well, I guess people use terms like speed based or like pressure based, but to me, those are just kind of blanket terms and they don't actually so much define the thing. So like, let's say a one-arm throw by, a two-arm fast Toriando, or maybe like an explosive knee cut. Those are all maybe speed movements, but the defense for each one is actually going to be different, right? So I wouldn't say it's like a speed pass issue or defending speed pass issues. It's more that you need to process the pass they're doing and develop the correct pattern to defend the movement that they're doing at the right time. So a lot of times people perceive things as being fast, but like if someone rolls with me, they'll often say like I'm really fast, right? But I think objectively, if you were to measure my actual explosiveness and speed, I'm actually not that fast. It's more that I just know the positions and I respond quickly because I know the positions well, so it's perceived as fast. So I think for you, it's hard to say without seeing the exact passes happening, but I think you actually need to identify each individual specific pass that's giving you a hard time, where it's coming from, and the defense you're supposed to do. And then to you, the movement will seem slower when you're rolling because you understand what's happening. When you understand what's happening, things will be actually perceived lower in your like psyche as you see it coming. You can actually respond better because you understand it. But if you don't know what's happening, it just comes across as super, super fast. So I think it's hard to answer your question directly. So basically, it just depends on the pass you're doing. Develop a specific answer for each individual pass situation and the setup, and build from there. Um, yeah. Uh, do you have a good defense for an over/under pass when your top leg's shin is trapped in the bicep? Okay, so do you have a good defense for over/under pass when your top leg shin is trapped in the bicep of your opponent as opposed to their arm being under your leg? Ah, okay. So you're talking about like the over under like Bernardo Faria does where he gets the belt, right? Yeah, that one can be really, really hard. I tend not to get there. Like not many guys in my division try it. Um, quick thing, like without being able to go too in depth, I would watch some of Felipe Andrew versus Helton Jose Jr. Look that match up on YouTube. Felipe Andrew versus Helton Jose Jr. Because Helton Jose Jr. does a lot of like belt gripping and getting him really tight with his shoulder like that. And I think Felipe Andrew does a very good job of like breaking those grips. Usually for me, as long as I don't let them get their right leg too deep on me, I can usually use my shin pressure to break that grip off and work my way back out. But it's hard for me to say without seeing how deep you are. I mean, if they fully got the one leg fully extended in between theirs and they get that belt grip well, it's very hard. So I would focus a lot more on the preemption. but I guess I haven't dealt with that position enough to give you a really solid, exact answer about it. No problem, bud. Anyone else have some questions? I see we have 18 people in the chat. Got a lot of lurkers. Samuels, are you guys still allowed to train in UK, or is it just kind of like speakeasy training, or like what's going on in the UK with the COVID? Best competition matches showing knee cut versus knee shield. Oh, that's a good question. I would say probably like Leandro Lowe in general is very good at dealing with it, as is Lucas Lepre. Probably Leandro Lowe versus and the knee shield can be kind of a broad definition as well. You can play knee shield with the collar sleeve. You could play knee shield with like just the collar. You could play knee shield with like the far pant grip, so it can kind of evolve a bit. But I think if you watch like Leandro Lowe versus Satoshi from like 2012, I think he does kind of like a knee shield slash reverse De La Riva game. I think Lowe deals with it well. Um, Leandro Lowe. And the thing is, like, you actually don't get into the knee shield so much if you kind of pass like Lowe does. Like, I don't find myself in the knee shield that often in the first place. So I think it's really hard to think for me of a match where I like the guys entering into the knee shield and then unraveling it. It's more like the way you enter kind of negates it in the first place. So in that sense, I can't really think of a good fight. I think like Lowe is a great person to watch in general for just avoiding the knee shield in general. He's very good at keeping the guy's hips centered. He's always circling back to the center early before cutting into it, so it kind of never even comes about in the first place, if that makes sense. Um, best competition matches showing. Okay, so saw that. Okay, so Shyam Tana asked best way to increase grip endurance for double sleeve. Play double sleeve. Honestly, I mean, of course, like I'm a big fan of like strength training, especially body weight training. So I used to do like gi hangs where I would just hold the sleeves and then just try to hang as long as I can, and then slowly I progressed to doing like one arm gi hangs with a resistance band, and I would do like 10 sets of like 6-second holds at like maximum difficulty. And I felt like that really strengthened my fingers. A lot of like double sleeve grip holds are kind of different because it's more finger strength than it is the actual grip. So you may have like a really good crushing grip, but your fingers may not be able to hold the actual, like you can see my knuckles are pretty like crazy, right? Like, so, uh, the actual fingertip strength is a big deal. So doing like spider sleeve gi hangs, and if you can't hold your body weight with the sleeve gi hang, you can just like kind of lean back and keep your feet on the floor because that'll be enough, right? You can also do pick this up from my buddy Pedro Torres, do fingertip holds. So just kind of hold like a plank position and just hold with your fingertips on the ground like in a push up, and slowly I kind of go into a pike position so I get my butt really high and slowly distribute more weight onto the fingertips. The eventual goal is to try to go into a handstand on your fingertips. But if you increase your fingertip strength, that makes holding the position better. That being said, I do think a lot of it is technical. So, like, if you know how to control the position well, like, and they posture and you kind of follow it. Like I could play double sleeve with just two fingers most of the time, right? Because I know how to go with the guy's weight as he tries to move and resist and stuff. So I think that's like a major factor. And then just playing double sleeve a lot. If you just play double sleeve all the time, your finger strength is going to get better. Just like if you play like keymaster and collar sleeve and stuff, your actual mobility, like this way, kind of like Tommy Langerker, will get a lot better as well. I found the more I play that position, the more flexible I get. So just playing a lot of double sleeve, take rest days when you need, and just play the position a lot. It'll come naturally. Again, there's the technical portion of if your body gets pulled up off the mat, try to follow it. I know I've done videos on that before. Um, what's up, Daniel Reza? Hope all is good back in Gothenburg, buddy. I guess you deleted your comment. I don't know what it said, but good to see you. Um, Let's see. Hassan Ali asked, any concepts for posture breaking when someone is inside your closed guard, almost like they are stalling, but keeping a stiff arm in the stomach area? Okay. So I'm actually going to be doing a series here soon for Stephen Kesting on closed guard. But the big thing with posture breaking and closed guard is the guy is always trying to get his posture from his hands somewhere, unless he's leaning so far back that you could kind of like hip bump sweep where you come up into them. Um, so they're either doing three primary grips, which is two high, which is like one hand, each hand like kind of in the armpit, so they kind of look like this. They can do one high, one low, which is they double grip the lapel and they go on the hip with the other hand. And then the other one is them putting both hands on the hips. So depending on what grip they're doing, you're going to try to break their posture in different ways because they're all the same thing. It's like they're up here and they're like tripoding to get posture, right? So if they're doing both high, I'm usually trying to pummel under their arm, and I come under and I start looking for a cross collar and I pin my elbow to their chest. Because if I get the cross collar up and I pin my elbow to their chest, they cannot re-pummel and it becomes easy to break posture. If they're going one grip high and one grip low, so they're double gripping that lapel, that's usually where I look for that cross sleeve grip, come under and break their grip and start dragging the arm across the body with that kind of classic Hodger Gracie style where you drag the arm across. If they go both low, usually if you grab both lapels, do a crunch and kind of pull and bring your knees to you, you can usually buckle them forward. Both hands low is not very stable. The only exception with both hands low working is if I start both hands high and I walk my hips back a lot and I can get my center of gravity really far back, then I switch to their hips. As long as I'm far enough away from my hands, I can tripod. But if you're more over them and you put the hands on the hips, they'll collapse you over the hand and you'll kind of fall forward. Hope that makes sense. I'm not sure. I might have done a video before on that on YouTube on like breaking posture and closed guard. If not, it'll definitely be in the series I filmed for Stephen Kesting. When you play collar sleeve with knee shielding against their hip, is it similar to Tommy's Keymaster Farside collar sleeve? Really good question. So ultimately, there's it's just collar sleeve in the end. It's just singular collar sleeve, which is like a massively complicated position. And I kind of define it near side, far side, but eventually they'll kind of all come together into one system. So what I would say the distinction with what I'm talking about with the knee shield and then like Tommy's Keymaster game, which is like I use that as well. It just depends on what leg they're leading with and if I can get my foot on their hip, is that the knee shield I was referring to in the prior live streams is I'm playing near side collar sleeve. So I have cross collar, left sleeve, left foot's like De La Hiva or lassoed. In this case, probably De La Hiva. They try to kill my right leg. I knee shield and I pull them over the shield. That functionally works very different than the knee shield of what Tommy's doing in the far side. But if I use that knee shield and pull them down with it, often they'll open up their elbow knee space on the left side and I get my foot on the hip. And once I get the foot on the hip, I can kind of force their leg back. And then it actually becomes kind of far side collar sleeve on the left side. This is very nuanced. So if you guys don't know these positions, it's okay. It's just for this guy's question. Uh, so once I get my left foot on the hip, so if you imagine I'm playing collar sleeve, right hand cross collar, left hand sleeve, if my left leg is on the outside of his elbow knee space, right, then I can't go omoplata triangle. So then usually I'm looking for a De La Hiva hook or a lasso with my left leg. So I use, sometimes my right foot's usually in the bicep, but sometimes I get the shin across their torso. I pull down and that'll break their posture down. And it'll either give me a really strong left De La Hiva hook or they open that gap between their elbow and knee. I get my left foot on their hip. Once I have my left foot on their hip, I can push their hip out, create some separation, and now it's almost like I'm forcing far side collar sleeve just on the left side. So at this point, it'll actually look like Tommy Langerkirk's game, just on the left side instead of the right side, because Tommy always plays with his right hand on the sleeve, right? So from there, I will use that knee shield a lot. And if you watch my IG reels, you probably see me do it a few times where I go for that matrix where I off balance the guy to the right and then underhook the leg and throw the matrix over. That's exactly what I'm doing. If you look at any of my IG reels clips recently, almost all of those are from this collar sleeve system where I break the guy down to the right with the shield and then I get the foot on the hip. If I get the foot on the hip, it unlocks more of the Keymaster collar sleeve kind of sequences. If not, then I do more like De La Hiva hook, berimbolo, omoplata triangle, classic collar sleeve stuff. So Sorry for the super specific answer. But if you guys haven't seen that stuff, try to check out my most recent IG reels. Nicholas Tello Camacho asks, best guards to play as a white belt, John. I think double sleeve and collar sleeve to me are the most foundational guards to understand. I think if you could only have one, collar sleeve is the most important. But I always start people with double sleeve because the burden of learning it is way easier, right? Realistically, you need both, so it's irrelevant. You should learn both, okay? But I think conceptually, the collar sleeve, you can go really far with it. Double sleeve, if you only have double sleeve, people can deny the second sleeve grip, okay? But it's very hard for people to deny one sleeve grip because to do literally anything to you, they have to commit one hand, right? They can't pass you if they can't grab you, right? So to do any form of grabbing you, they have to commit a hand. So you're going to control the sleeve. So if you get the one sleeve, you can build collar sleeve. But if they grab your other leg, which they almost always will, then you can get double sleeve and build. So if you're reverse engineering, starting with double sleeve and building a good double sleeve control, um, getting good at that and then building from there, to me, is the best for a beginner because it's very easy to control once you understand it, and it's very static. You don't have to do much. Collar sleeve is a lot more complicated, but it's easier to get to. So eventually you need both, though. Collar sleeve and double sleeve is certainly my answer for that. The other big benefit with those is they work no matter if your opponent's standing, one knee up, Mikey squatted, or on both knees. Collar sleeve and double sleeve will both work. Whereas like most guards don't work in all four situations. Okay, Dan Meyer asks, my knees have continued to get worse over years of playing an open collar sleeve spider gang game. Is this a thing? Well, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of factors in why your knee might be getting bad. I mean, and I don't know all. No problem, Nicholas. I don't know everything going into what's going on with you. For me, my knees are completely fine. Right, I've had back injuries in my career, but I've never had any issue with my knees really, other than like an acute injury where someone landed on my knee and bent it the wrong way or something. I've never had knee issues. So it's hard for me to say. I don't think it's like a default that if you play those positions, you're going to have knee problems, but it could be for you depending on your anatomy and stuff. One thing I would say is a lot of times people are trying to put De La Hiva hooks in at the wrong time. If you're trying to chase a De La Hiva hook when the guy's leg is relatively straight, you're going to put a lot of pressure on your leg. You should be only putting the De La Hiva hook in when the guy's leg is bent. That's when the hook latches. But if the leg is straight as a board, you can't really get a good hook, and it's going to feel like it's putting a lot of pressure on your knee. So I think that's a huge aspect for sure. Let's see. Have you mentioned having lower back issues? Are these issues that linger and flare up, or have you been able to manage them? I myself have dealt with similar issues with a previous disc bulge. Yeah, I had a massive herniated disc in 2012 that put me out for like a year and a half. But I made a full recovery, so I feel good now. So you can definitely get over it. It is a thing I think that happens if you do jiu-jitsu a lot. I'm sure it's not good for your back, especially because oftentimes the body positioning that may be the most useful to pass the position is not biomechanically the best. Like you might be like rounded with like your lower vertebrae like arched in like a lot of weird positions, so it can be tough. So actually, one thing I think that really helps for the back is like Jefferson curls. I know this one guy in Sweden, Andreas Gustafsson, who's like one of the strongest humans I know. He's like super strong, super flexible. He's like 220 pounds, and like he can do like a Jefferson curl, which is basically like if you imagine you're standing on a box and you have like a weight and you're doing basically a deadlift with super poor form. So each vertebrae, one at a time, is curling up like this, and you come all the way up, and then you come all the way back down, one vertebrae at a time. And I think he can do that with like 260 pounds or something. And I think he had me start doing those with like really, really lightweight and slowly work my way up. But I think that actually, as long as you're doing it with really lightweight and slowly scaling up, I think that's actually a really good thing to prepare your body for what you're doing in jiu-jitsu. Because if you do normal deadlifts and you keep your back straight and stuff, you may not be working the same way as when you're doing things like Jefferson curls. That being said, I'm not like a physiotherapist. I'm not an expert on it, but that's what I found to help me a bit, as well as taking my mobility and core strength and stuff really seriously. Get with someone you really trust for like physiotherapy stuff. Um, Christian Corners asks, "Hey John, when people go on both knees and you play collar sleeve, what do you go for? I find it hard to sweep in this position." Yeah, so I think when someone's on both knees, collar sleeve is a really good option, and usually it's some mix of a loop choke threat, a knee shield scissor sweep threat, and omoplata or triangle threat. If you have a really good omoplata triangle and collar sleeve, guys will start pulling their elbows super tight and going down, but then they'll open up the loop choke threat. And then when you start threatening the loop choke a lot, they'll start posturing back up, which inherently will make it harder to keep their elbow tight, and you'll be able to start pulling for that omoplata triangle series. So really what you want to look for when they go to both knees is to get your foot on the hip. You want collar sleeve with foot on hip. Another big trick that I use, this is huge, is if I'm playing collar sleeve with like the foot on the hip or something, and they're on one knee up or both knees, and I get it in there, is start shrimping away. So if let's say I'm doing right hand cross collar, left hand sleeve, I'll have my left foot on the hip. My right foot will start tapping the floor and shrimping away. And what happens is as you shrimp away, it'll pull their arm out. If you just sit here and just try to use your muscle to pull it out, it's very difficult, right? But if you start shrimping away, as you shrimp away, it kind of like you get so far away, it's hard for them to keep it tight, especially if you knee shield with the other leg. And that'll make it easy to pull the arm out. Once I pull the arm out, I'll kind of center my hip back in and get my shin inside, and then I can attack triangles and omoplatas really easy. Either if you get the omoplata, that's a great technique for fighting a big person actually, because you can keep their weight off you. Um, and then if not, a lot of guys will come up to one knee to try to defend, and then that'll often expose grabbing their ankle, and then you can switch more into like De La Hiva attacks. I actually like single leg guard for sweeping really big guys, oddly enough. I did a video with Lucas Lepre on that recently, where you see him sweep that like 300 plus pound guy at Europeans. Let's see here. Johnny Riviere. Despite the pandemic, what are some advances that you have seen in the jiu-jitsu scene this year? Double sleeve getting used a lot more. I think I just saw Rolando. I think it's Rolando. What's Rolando Junior? Rolando Junior. From Atos. I saw him using it a lot recently. I think double sleeve is kind of being more popular again. I think Bolo crab ride stuff like Nick Sals and Daniel Myra. They both won the pans. I think they subbed almost everyone with the Bolo and crab ride. So that's not new, but I think it's like people are really seeing how strong it is. I think the whole scene is getting better at it, and you see what like Tommy and Espen did with it. I think those two things. But I guess I haven't been keeping so much of an eye on the current competition scene. I tend to get really deep on something I'm working on. Like recently, it's been collar sleeve and collar sleeve passing. And then I kind of watch videos of matches that's happening a lot, and I tend to stay in that zone for a bit. So I've been watching the broader scene so much. I think it's important too. I do notice a lot of people, they kind of get into like, kind of like, oh, what's the thing now? What's popular? And like everyone's looking for that, but you really want to focus on just your understanding and like where are you lost and go deep on things. Because like I remember like a few years back, people were like, oh, double sleeve doesn't work or spider guard doesn't work, and then you see all these people getting caught with stuff from spider guard, and you see how good Felipe Andrew is it with Rolando, Janatis Gracie, Shane Jamil, so many people using it. And there was a period where people talking about spider guard not working. And then there was like a period where people thought they figured out collar sleeve. Now all of a sudden that's working again. And like these things, they oscillate. I've seen that. I've been training jiu-jitsu for like 17, 18 years now. And like there's so many phases with what the trends are. And the people that usually get really good, they find what's working for them and they go deep on it and they don't chase the trends too much. So even if people are saying, oh, this position doesn't work, if it's working really well for you in the gym, keep building on it until it doesn't. So try not, I'm not saying you're doing this, but try not to get too caught up in like trends. Recommendation for good matches to study collar sleeve. Tommy Langaker, pretty much everything Tommy Langaker does. The only thing with Tommy, if you're studying Tommy, is that he's always doing collar sleeve with his right hand on the sleeve. So if you're playing left hand sleeve, collar sleeve, it's much it's a lot different, like, because he's used to always has people right leg leading, so he's grabbing the far sleeve. That's generally what I call far side collar sleeve. So you really want to focus on just make sure you know which side you're playing. So but Tom, you can find matches where Tommy fights a left leg leader. Gustavo Batista is a left leg leader. Max Limbaugh, he's fought like 3 or 4 times. He's like a left leg leader. I think Marcos Tinoco left leg leads. Other than that, like with a classic collar sleeve, maybe Isaac Doderlin plays it a bit. A lot of guys use it transitionally, so to like have a pure collar sleeve game to watch, it's very hard. When I build my mental model for understanding jiu-jitsu, I build it around understanding individual guards, right? So realistically, I'm going to start putting out more content like this for you guys to study. What you really need is actually someone specific sparring directly from collar sleeve and only collar sleeve. And then you can watch that guy spar in collar sleeve and see what he does in every possible pattern. So you can really critically analyze just that grip. Because when you're watching like high level competition, what you're seeing is someone mixing systems. So they might play collar sleeve for a second and then they get to one section in collar sleeve they don't like, and then they switch to double sleeve, and then they use that to switch to sit up guard. So when you're trying to understand the position and how far you can take it, it's more difficult in modern. You have to find sections of the match where they're in it because they might start mixing everything. So ideally, what you want is a match. Like when I developed my daily Hiva passing, I used to watch Leandro Lowe versus Felipe Pena matches because like the whole 10 minutes he's passing daily Hiva the whole time, right? So those were almost like instructionals on how to pass daily Hiva. So with certain positions that can be harder to find. You have to kind of skim matches and look for the moments. But I'm going to try to start putting out more content where I just do pure specific sparring in a position like that, so you guys can reference it and look. And certainly when I start putting out my own instructionals, there's going to be a ton of video of me doing specific sparring, so you can analyze those exact moments, if that makes sense. Let's see here. Uh, okay. John Park asks, uh, what's your personal favorite style of playing double sleeve, leg pass body or spider X? Realistically, you got to play it all, and it depends on who I'm fighting. I would say for someone who's newer to the position, leg pass body's probably the simplest to understand. It's very just compartmented. It's very hard to get out of. If someone is just like reasonably competent and learns to control well and just chill there, it's like a great start point. For me personally, I guess recently it's been leg pass body a lot, but again, it just depends. I mean, if I go to the position and the guy with his non-lasso sidearm is really tight, I can't go pass body because he's protecting it. So then I have to do the spider hook, right? So it always depends on the way the guy's fighting me. I can't like decide I want to do leg pass body today because he may not be making that available. So I have to take what he gives. Often when I compete, I'll end up pulling something out of my arsenal that I just haven't even used in forever because the guy just does some response I didn't expect. I think one of the last times I competed at Europeans, I fought this pretty good black belt. I can't remember his name. He's a pretty good guy, and I just ended up pulling out like a cross sleeve butterfly guard sweep out of nowhere, which I haven't used in forever, but just the match led itself to it. So you really can't be thinking when you're fighting about like, oh, I want to do this or that. It's more like what they're giving you. So with double sleeve, you really need all those series. You need the spider X, you need the spider, you need the leg pass body, so that you can kind of build the whole thing. So I like the whole system. Um, uh, Mauricio Rodriguez, can you discuss your approach to recovery from tough sessions? Well, if I'm in like serious training, then I really focus a lot on, the classic stuff, like a really healthy, clean diet, eat a lot of like good grains like quinoa, or eat like sweet potatoes, eat a lot of calories All right, I'm back. Um, get a lot of calories, get good sleep, stretch, all the generic stuff. That's when I'm in serious training mode. But I think one big thing is actually is for consistency is like how you train, right? So I used to always say you can't train twice a day, right? And like you can, it just depends on how you define twice a day. You could train 3 times a day. It just depends on how you define it, right? So if you come in and I tell you, okay, you have to roll for an hour, um, yeah, or let's say you go to Atos HQ and it's like 100 minutes of hard sparring, right? Everyone's like, man, you're going to be dead after that, right? Probably, but technically, you only go as hard as you want. If you roll and you're like, I don't care if everyone kills me today, I'm just going to roll. And if they pass me, they pass me, whatever. You could do 100 minutes of sparring and just get murdered the whole time and not even be tired at the end, right? So you kind of dictate how hard your class is, right? By whether or not you ever accept loss, right? So, like, let's say I'm doing specific sparring, for example, and I'm playing collar sleeve, and I make a mistake, or the guy does some weird movement, and he gets around me a little bit. I could at that point be like, he got it, and just kind of let it, and like he gets around, and I use a little bit of energy and fight, but I'm like, okay, he got it. I let him go. Let's go again, and then we go again, and I don't blow that much energy because I learned the mistake I made, and then I go again. I conserved energy there. But if every time he gets around because I made a technical mistake, I try to compensate and go, I'm not today. I go crazy hard. I may like try to do a Turkish get up with this huge dude and blow all of my energy. Then like after 3 rounds trying that, I'm dead because every single time I try to overcompensate for my technical error with like insanity and effort. Okay. And that has a place when you're preparing for a major tournament or something. But realistically, I would rather just go, I made a mistake there. What did I do? Let's go again. And then not waste the energy, because then I can train for 3 hours and then just keep making the pattern recognition changes. Right. So then I could train twice a day like that, depending on the intensity. So more important than actually your recovery might be, and I don't know the context of, why you're asking the question, but it might actually be that maybe in your trainings, be careful about where you choose to exert your energy. Right. I try to have the mindset that even if I'm super out of shape, if I lose to someone, it's because of my technique. Right. I should be so technical that I can stall the guy and catch my breath when I need to and be tactical with my energy and everything. Right. I'm always trying to blame technique. So if you feel really, really dead after training, maybe try to focus on being uh, tactical and where you choose to exert your energy. That being said, of course, you're going to have comp trainings where you're trying to kill yourself that day. And in that case, then I would say the normal stuff, eat a really healthy diet, eat a lot of calories, get a lot of sleep, stretch, and all those kind of things. I think is really key. One thing I would like to see more as well, but a lot of major gyms don't do this, is if you're feeling dead that day, I would rather tell my student, hey, come in and you don't have to spar hard. You can just drill some light, whatever, work a little light on the side and get in the door. I would rather someone show up twice a day and like 2 or 3 times a week they go hard and the rest of the time they kind of go lighter and they're always there than I would them feel like, oh, it's going to be hard and there's no way out of it. So then they just don't show up. Right. So even for myself, if I'm not in tournament training mode and I'm trying to have like a social life and a fun life too, I might go out and hang out with friends and stay out too late or something. But when I wake up in the morning and I haven't had much sleep, I'm like, I'm going to go in because I'm like, worst case, I'll go in and work light. And I'll end up going in and doing like, 30 to 40 minutes of like kind of positional work light with someone. I start to get my heart rate up. Then I'm like, oh, it's kind of fun. I end up going and I end up rolling and going really hard because I kind of eased into it. But I didn't have any mental resistance going into class because I knew I could go light if I wanted to. Right. But if you tell yourself when you go in, you got to go hard as hell every single time. Sometimes when you're really tired or sore, you're like, I'm not going to go today. Just go in anyway and just lower the intensity. Right. So sorry, I know I spoke around your question a lot, so I'm not saying all that applies to you, but it's just a lot of thoughts. Um, uh, Another Russian question, because I can't pronounce these names. Will you overview half guard passes as you did for other guards, or knee cut is the key? Yeah, for sure. I can. When you ask half guard, there's a lot of variations of half guards. It could be like deep half guard. It could be like the single leg grip. For sure, I can review some like half guard stuff. I tend to not get in deep half a lot. I just try to avoid it up front. The way I'm entering, I think it's very avoidable. Of course, I can give some good answers for how to get out of it. Um, but yeah, I'll do some more overviews on kind of my knee cut entrance and trying to negate it up front early as well. All right. Hassan Ali asks, what would you recommend for someone who can only train 2 times a week to maximize their sessions? Well, what I would say is if you're only doing 2 times a week, do you mean 2 times a week at the gym? Is it possible for you to get a side training partner that you can work on technique with at your house? Or maybe you have a girlfriend or something that even if she doesn't train, you can maybe 2 or 3 times a week get 30 minutes on the side to work stuff at your house. Because if you can only train twice a week at the gym, but you can still have someone come over that you can work on the side with, what I would say is you should use the 2 times at the gym to go to really spar hard and have like hard rounds. And then the rest of the time, watch a lot of video, take notes on a lot of ideas, and then test ideas, just doing light technical work at your house and do all that stuff so that you maximize your change. Because you get better when you make adjustments from training, right? So if I go in and train and I go really hard and I roll with someone and they do some guard I'm not used to, like they do underhook De La Hivo with a lapel wrap, and then I think I know how to get out of it, and then actually it's kind of giving me a hard time today. After class, I'm like, what happened there? What did they do different? Why didn't my thing work? And I like taking notes about it, thinking about it, looking at videos, brainstorming ideas. If I have a friend, I'll have them come over and test the position, come up with proposed solutions, and I play with it for a few days. And then the next time I go with that person, I'm going to be trying that new stuff to see if it works, right? So use your 2 times a week as like the testing. And then you need to use the other time to video study, look for answers for your problems, and get feedback. So make sure at the end of your sessions on the 2 times a week, you're writing down the major problems that occurred and then be actively seeking out answers by watching competition video or watching instructionals or working with a friend on the side. Oh, running out of coffee here. Tips for defending stack passes when playing collar sleeve. And if someone manages to get a shoulder deep underhook on your leg, you put on their bicep, will you defend with cross sleeve grips or switch grips? Um, well, the biggest thing I would say for defending the stack pass in collar sleeve, again, is the knee shield. If they start trying to dig the underhook, if you knee shield hard and pull really far across your shield, it'll off balance them and they'll lose the position. So it's very, very hard for them to underhook there. Um, if they do get a really, really deep underhook, I feel like I would switch to like almost like double sleeve and try to stiff arm their sleeve and kind of walk your hips back. And at some point, bail on the grips and just try to do damage control. But I would need to see kind of how they get the underhook, right? Because if they try to underhook too soon, they're kind of walking into a triangle as well. Yeah, Josh W said, one of our gym mottos is sometimes it's not about being good, it's about just being here, just about being here. Yeah, absolutely. Just being there and focusing on the technique, right? Because jiu-jitsu is about technique. People think it's all hard work, and of course, hard work matters, but it's about information. Like, I was working with one of my guys a while ago, and like, we spent uh, one day working on a position was giving me a hard time, and then I go home, I watch a video, get some technique, or see some positions, come up with proposed solutions. I come back in, test it, and then we solve the problem. And it's like one session one day, or 2 sessions one day, right? Whereas let's say that the answer to the problem I have is like shield my leg. I could spar for a month before I accidentally stumble across that detail. And if I shield my leg, it blocks what they're doing, right? So, or you can buy a random chance, solve it on the first day. So all the hard work is really just there to find it out, right? Like if someone is like a white belt and I'm giving them advice, I could let them just stumble about and try to figure everything out, for months until they stumble across the right detail. Or I could be like, oh yeah, just do this with your palm instead of this, and he can't loop out. And like, oh my God, that just saved him like months of work, right? So all the physical labor, it has 2 points. It's to get the job done, to learn the technique, and to peak your cardio endurance for a tournament, right? So to me, the main thing is really just getting the new technical knowledge in, and then try to peak for a tournament. But you can't be like in tournament shape year round. That's no way to live. I mean, if you look at most professional fighters, they're like in the off season or when they're not getting ready for a fight, they're out partying and having fun, and then they have a big fight and they peak for it. You can't be in tournament shape year round. Josh W. Something else is to be focused on your 2 days. Don't come in and do random stuff. Know what you're going to be working and put in time on that with intent. Yeah, exactly. If you're only there twice a day, you really need to make sure you're coming in with something to work on. You're taking notes on everything that went wrong at the end of your session, and you're doing a lot of thinking and processing, right? Because that's how you're going to make up the gap for not being on the mat. John Park asked, how do you have the confidence to go for something like a cross sleep, butterfly sleep, when it's not something you've really drilled or done in a while, especially in a competition setting? It's not like I decide, oh, I want to do this. It's more like that's just the way the guy positioned his body. It became available. I mean, I did play that game for a long time, cross sleep, butterfly, setup guard. I've trained for like a long time now. So there was a large period where I played butterfly, so it doesn't feel that foreign to me. Um, it's not like I'm making a big decision there. It's just like, oh, that's available. I'm going to take it, right? So it's like you might be training in the gym, and then the way the guy you're fighting fights is like he never lets you triangle choke. So then like you almost like forget that you can even do it because they're defending it all the time. And then you go compete, and then the guy comes at you like this. You'll take the triangle choke because it's there. Um, like another big thing you mentioned there was like when you're not drilling it all the time. I never drill like ever. I don't find it depends on the definition of drilling as well. It can be very loose, but I never trust my technique enough to want to do high repetition drilling. So I just spar with it, or I specific spar with it and have my opponent resist or like light resist at minimum. Because like if I like develop a new way of doing the knee cut pass, and I'm like, I'm going to drill this 10,000 times. That's almost like I've told myself like this is how you do it, and the more I drill it, the better I get. But it could be that actually there's a much better way to do it, and that the way I'm doing it is really bad because it might be that there's a technique I don't know about, that when I go compete, that if I do it this way, I'll get triangle choked. Right. I didn't even know that. So then to like commit really hard on drilling something like 10,000 times, again, I'm not saying that that's what you were saying, but it's just a side thought. Um, that like, if you drill something 10,000 times, you're like locking it in your brain. You're like etching it in your brain. I have every technique and everything I do is very fluid and open. So like I have the general idea of how this system works, but then I'm always adapting and paying attention to what my opponent's doing. So my techniques and my understanding is always evolving over time. You don't want to have this idea that like, this is the technique, this is how you do it. You deal it, the more you drill it, the better you are at it, because it might be that like the person showing it to you is wrong, or there's something they didn't account for or whatever. So try to spend a lot more time specific sparring and positions and developing your comfort and understanding of those positions. And then the things become a lot easier. Hi, John. Where can I buy Vital kimonos in Europe? That's a good question. I'm not entirely certain. Um, I guess you could go to their website. I don't know if their websites doesn't give advice on how to get it in Europe, but I'll talk to the owner and discuss with him the best way to set it up to get it in Europe, and then I'll post about it on Instagram or something. Um, Long Tran said, just started watching the stream. Wanted to say thanks for all the great content. No problem, buddy. Thanks for joining in. Uh, Mike Linder asked, how much time do you devote to positional sparring or those situational drilling sessions each week? How much time do you devote to positional sparring or those situational sessions each week? So for me, I leave my training very open. So for me, though, what I'm doing is Monday through Friday, I'm usually training twice a day. Okay. So I have Monday morning training at 11 a.m. and then night training usually is at 5 p.m. And I either do that privately with like a friend or two friends, and I just do that at my house, or I'll go to the gym and do it with like the general group. And all of our sessions are pretty much the same. It's just like come in, and then we have like 2 hours of training. We put the timer on 6 minutes. The first like 10 minutes, I'll show some technique and ideas for people to work on if they want to. And then we warm up with 20 minutes of light rolling. Everyone gets around 30 minutes of time, 30 to 40 minutes of time to do specific sparring, working on what they want, and then regular rolls after that. And sometimes the regular rolls just turn into specific sparring. For me, I kind of dictate all, like that's kind of what I recommend to my students. But for me, I just do it based on what I feel I need that day. So like I might come in and I'm more working on like combining things, like combining my collar sleeve, my double sleeve, and my de la Hiva or something. And then I might just want to roll with someone and not even tell them what I'm doing. I'm like, just try to pass my guard. And then I just start trying to kind of feel things out and get creative inspiration and play around and move and stuff and just see what comes about. But then I might notice a real problem is happening in like a super niche position. And then I'll spend the rest of the day, like, so the first round's like that. And I notice this one specific problem. I'll spend the rest of that session in that exact position, sparring there the rest of the class over and over and over, maybe with one person if I feel like they're the only person that can recreate that response until I solve it. Right. So it's almost like when you're learning, only you know when you are confused. Okay. So it is a very highly individual thing, right? So if I show the collar sleeve to the class, one person's going to be confused about like how to hold the collar. Another person will be confused about how their hips should be. Everyone's confused in a different way, right? We all have our own unique problems, and only you can know where you don't understand, and you have to seek out to resolve your own uh, gaps of knowledge. No one can do that for you. All people can do is say things and give you information and give you new ideas, and maybe by chance that happens to unlock something for you. But that's great to just take in a lot of new content to get inspiration, but you also have to be actively engaged in answering the questions that are confusing you. So because of that reason, I think that I try to have my training very open, unless the purpose of that session is to push my cardio or something. Then I roll very different. That's just me moving a lot. It's not even technical. It's just me moving a lot to push cardio. But yeah, so it's hard to really define. It might be I come in and then I just keep rolling until I find something that's bugging me, or it might be that before class that day I was studying film and I saw a really cool sequence that I had a cool idea that I think that might work well with something else I'm doing, and then I try to make it work the whole class. And then someone gives me a problem in a certain position, and I just kind of follow my intuition. So it's way more like a creative outlet. There's a lot of creativity to jiu-jitsu. It's not just like show up, drill, hard training. It's a very creative endeavor. There's a big physical aspect, but there's a big creative aspect. And you need to keep open mind and play with things and try new positions and move around a lot and explore all these different things to see what unlocks. What percentage of your training time do you think is spent rolling against people within one weight class of your weight versus much heavier? Almost everyone I roll with is a lot heavier. I'm always rolling with like heavier people. That's like from the time I started, I was always rolling with way heavier people. I mean, at my original gym, almost everyone was like 60 or sorry, thinking in kilos. Almost everyone in my gym was like 190 and plus, so I'm super used to that. Incidentally, more the hard thing for me is getting smaller people that are really flexible to mimic what I have to deal with in competition with a flexible guard. That's actually the harder thing, because it's easy. Like I feel very comfortable fighting really heavy people with my guard systems, but if I don't have someone hyper flexible, I can get false positives on my passes, or I'm like, man, this is working great, and then I fight someone and I'm like, man, I didn't calculate that they're that flexible, so then I have to reprogram, right? So often I have to like sometimes I'll even roll with someone a little bit lower level who's just super flexible and teach them the position so that they can give me the appropriate response. That's even better than going with someone really, really good who doesn't have the flexibility. Oh, no more coffee. Let's see here. Mike Linder, do you ever get any strength and conditioning in throughout the week? Recently, I haven't been doing it at all. During the pandemic, I've just been doing a ton of jiu-jitsu and just really having fun in the creative outlet portion. Um, but recently, I've been starting to get back into it, and I've been kind of taking a minimalist approach, which is I just try to do two strength exercises a day that I do. So basically, I'll just like Monday through Friday, and I just feel it out and I take days off. The hard part with like a classic strength routine is that it's not accounting for the fact that you're training jujitsu 2 times a day every day. So I like flexibility, or I like flexibility in my schedule. Um, Naval Ravikant, who's like one of my like favorite thinker talkers today, he always talks about like creativity ends with a full schedule, right? So if you really set this strict schedule, like let's say I'm in the gym and I make this new discovery with this position, I'm like, oh man, this is really clicking. Like this is completely changing the way I play the guard. This knee shield thing, oh my god, it's this huge thing. And I'm supposed to strength train at like 1 p.m. right, and then it's like 12:30, and like the person I'm working with is ready to go, and we're both like, oh my god, this is the next big breakthrough. Man, I'm gonna do that for 2 consecutive hours and ride that moment out all the way, and just like let the inspiration and the passion for what I'm doing drive me, right? So I'd rather say forget the strength training today, right? So I like my schedule to be flexible. So also, it may be that I end up doing spider guard for 2 hours that day, and I'm supposed to do pull ups that day, right? And then it's like, well, man, I already did 2 hours of spider guard pulling. Do I also need to do heavy weighted pull ups now? No, right? So by doing just 2 exercises a day, I can just pattern them for what I want. So it's like, okay, I do 2 jujitsu sessions and 1 strength and conditioning session. And then, if I feel okay after the morning session, maybe I'll do push-up progressions and pull-up progressions. And then on Tuesday, I'll do L-sits and pistol squats. On Wednesday, I feel really tired. I'm going to do nothing. On Thursday, I feel like I did a lot of pulling stuff in class. I don't feel like I need to do anything. So maybe I just do handstand push-up progressions and, ab wheel. And I just kind of play with it. As long as I'm doing something 5 days a week, I'm making some progress. I think it's better to just do slow progress over time than try to like really force it. Again, it doesn't work for everyone. This is just what works for me. I really like to keep the creativity high so that I'm excited about what I'm doing. When my schedule's really locked in, it becomes very monotonous. Hitachi, I'd like to come and train at your school for a week or so when the situation gets better. Do you have a visiting program? Yeah, we actually have quite a few people visiting. Even during the pandemic, we've had quite a few from Europe still coming in, especially during the summer. Where are you from, Hitachi? But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if my current situation with my apartment might be moving, but normally I have a rental thing where you can rent out a room for me, and then like you can train there for a week, and then I give you some free privates and throw it in and give you like a good deal to come train and kind of get shadowed for a bit. So that's really good. Otherwise, I have a few guys at the gym that'll rent out, and we can set it up for sure. Germany. Okay, so technically you're allowed to visit. January, we have like a few people visiting from Switzerland. We have a lot of people visiting in January. But yeah, message me on Instagram and we can organize a time for you to come and what works out the best. But it'd be really cool to have you visit. I have spent, Jake Degas asks, I have spent the last 3 years from blue to purple training at 80 kilograms. Now I've got to weight 75 year-round MMA. Do you think I'll have to rebuild all my technique again significant? No, not at all. I mean, your body weight shouldn't change your technique. Let me read that again. I spent the last 2 years from blue to purple training at 80 kilograms. Now I've got to the weight 70 below 75 year round for MMA. Do you think I still have to rebuild all my technique again significantly? Um, I'm not sure I understand your question, but if you're asking, do you have to change your technique a lot because your weight is different? Not at all. I mean, 5 kilos should not change your technique at all. I mean, it's not uncommon to see guys in jujitsu, go from featherweight all the way up to ultra heavy and have similar games. Granted, they're on, they're very supplemented when they do that, but um, yeah. So I don't think you need to change much. Mauricio Rodriguez asks, second question, upside, downside to training at a small gym. How to work new techniques, keep things interesting with small groups of training partners very familiar with your game. Yeah, supplemented is that's the buzzword for a shitload of steroids. Second question, upside down training, training in a small gym. Yeah, you can get really good at a small gym. I mean, look at Tommy and Espen out here in Norway. I started a really small gym and won the Pan Ams and fought all sorts of guys from major gyms when I trained at a small gym. So I think you can totally do it. The big thing is you have to watch a lot of competition video and have things you're working on, you know? And then if your partners don't know what to do, like learn what you want them to do and teach that to your partner so they can do it. So you can get a lot done that way. I would just say the only thing you need to add in is just periodic training trips. So if you train at a small gym and you have a little dedicated group of people that are willing to work on stuff technically with you, just once every now and then, go on a training trip somewhere. Plan, like, save up some money, go on a training trip to a major gym for like a week or two, and then you'll get like all this new feedback on problems that you didn't know you had. Take notes on everything, like, really use it like a scientific experiment to get all this feedback. Go back to your home base, work with your little core crew, try to fix all the problems, and then 3 or 4 months down the line, do another training trip. Like, 2 to 4 training trips a year. Uh, like that, or even if it's just a weekend, you can go train at a gym for, like, go on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, get 3 trainings in at some major gym, and you're going to get a lot of feedback to work on with your core group. So just have your core group, 3 or 4 people you can do technical stuff with at your home gym, and then and then do those training trips. And if you're one of the top guys at your home gym and it's a small gym, it's easier to get private lessons, which can then fund your training trips and stuff. So shout out from Ontario, Canada. You've done a seminar at Jocelyn's in Hamilton. Watched all your content since. Thanks a lot, Wyatt. Yeah, it's always fun visiting Jocelyn. I'm looking forward to the next trip, whenever that is. We're supposed to play D&D next time, so I missed out last time. All right, guys, let's do one more question, and then I'm going to call it. Need to go cook some dinner. Hopefully, I have some content from Tommy and Espens soon to show you guys. Just got to wait until I'm out of lockdown. See if there's any questions I missed back here. Let's see here. Jesper, you're late again, Jesper. No, you were good last time. Let's see here. Mike Linder, this might be outdated stuff, but when you come back to compete, are you with Alliance still or doing your own thing? Not entirely sure yet what I'm going to do. I mean, I definitely want to come back to competition, so I'm pretty open to the situation. I mean, I want to like line up with something that I think is going to work well. I want to build like a relationship that's a two-way street, where I think me joining the team helps them, and also it helps me in some way. So I'm pretty open to that. So not sure. All right. Well, hopefully I get to see the new place soon, Jesper. Hope everything's going good down there. Okay, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll try to do another one tomorrow. I got a new laptop coming, so hopefully I'll get to test that out. All right. Take care, guys. Thanks a lot.